Everything is recorded. No contact. No letter writing. I didn't see the harm in the letters. You know, hi son, love you, keep fighting. We are here to support you. What is wrong with that? What can the DA do about letters like this? Why couldn't we just write him a letter? We did what we were told to do. When they called us to tell us that Chris was thinking of a plea, that he wanted to speak to us about it. And when we got down there, it was a lie. They wouldn't let us talk to him about anything. And then we had to talk to him through a screen and a phone. And he just looked, he was crying. I mean, he wasn't crying. You could see the movement in his mouth that when I talked about Bella and I talked about Cece and the memorial service that we had for them. And he asked what pictures did we use, and you know, what was the song. You can see how he was trying to hold back tears.
What day was that? Do you remember?
Well, we flew in on that Monday. We flew in on Monday, and we saw him Monday night, and then the plea deal was on Tuesday.
So Monday night was when you wanted to talk to him about
it? Yes, and we weren't allowed. And it would have helped us so much to be able to talk to him. I wouldn't have to go through all this now. Everything just seems to be shrouded in secrecy. And just tell us what is going on. Let us ask Chris if it's okay if you talk to us. I just don't like the way it was handled from the very beginning. I don't like the way it was handled. I want to save your life, that's all. We're just here, we're going to save his life. We want him to get life in prison. It was like they already knew he was guilty. And this was the end of it.
Were you worried about the death penalty being a possibility?
No, I didn't care about the death penalty. Nobody's going to die in Colorado. I don't think anyone has, one person? And Colorado is changing. So people stay on death row forever. There was I think he'd be safer on death row. And her parents said they didn't want any more death. So I don't see how the death penalty could have mattered. All I want is the truth. I just want the truth. That's it. And I know Chris, he would take responsibility. And I guess maybe he is. I don't know. I just can't see him doing that.
What do you think the truth is about how Shanann and Bella and Celeste died?
Oh God, I don't know anymore, honestly. I don't know his frame of mind, and I don't know his frame of mind, because why would you plead guilty to something you didn't do? And that's all I want to know. Why would you plead guilty if you didn't do it? If you told your dad you didn't do it? And that's what I want to know. And they said, well, you'll find all that out. Christopher will talk to you when and after he's sentenced. Well, isn't that too late then? I mean, isn't it too late? What if he tells me, no, I didn't do it? I just took this plea deal because they told me I was going to go to jail anyways. I just want the truth. All of us just want the truth. That's all. But I would like to know what triggered it. How can a normal young man, and he's normal, he was normal, but he wasn't evaluated when he came into the system. He wasn't normal if he did this.
It must be bewildering.
It's bewildering to me. It is absolutely. How does this happen? How did this happen? And I go back in my mind thinking, was there something I didn't pick up with on Chris? But I can't think of anything except he was quiet.
It sounds like in your own mind, you're unsure as to what happened.
Yes.
Have you Have you reconciled the idea that he could have done all of this?
Yes. And that scares me to death. It scares me to death to think that he could have done all of this. And I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there right now. But I don't see why he's pleading guilty. I wouldn't. I'd fight. I'd fight to the end. But then you ask yourself, would a normal person dispose of the bodies the way you did? And I would have called 911 if it happened like that.
What would you say to Chris right now if he were sitting here?
If we were by ourselves,
Yeah.
I would say, Christopher, I need to know what happened that night. I need to know what happened. I've got to get these thoughts out of my head, what I think could have happened, but I need to know. And I think in time he will tell me.
Probably nothing you ever would have imagined you would have faced.
Never. Never. No, and not from the son that I raised and Ronnie raised and our children, you know, we just did everything for them. We worked for them. We wanted them to have a good life, good education. And we stressed education. And they were both doing well. I thought, you know, I knew marriages can be bad, but you can get out of them and go on. But I don't know what was going through anybody's mind that night. I mean, I feel too much. I mean, I definitely feel everything way too much and have a conscience that I just feel way too much.
What do you want to happen now? What would you hope would happen now?
Well, I want Chris to have his day in court. I mean, I need to know. I mean, I'd feel wonderful if I could talk to him and he could tell me what happened. And then we can all go on. But if he didn't do it, if he did not do this, then I need somebody to defend him. I need someone to defend him if he did not do this. Do they have the evidence? He's my son. I got to do everything I've got to do everything I can to help, to make sure that he is defended properly. But he said this is his decision, so I don't know. There's doubt. I have doubt that he did it. I can't see that he did it. I just cannot see him doing that as much as he loved his girls. How do you do that? I just don't see it. I just can't see him doing it. I just wanted to make sure that he has, I just wanted a defense. I wanted him to be defended.
And you haven't had any discussions with his attorneys about this?
No. I asked them, do you know what happened? They said no. We don't. Only person that knows what happened is Chris. Well, then he's told you his story, you know, in the affidavit. They said they would defend him if he wanted to go forward, but he said he didn't want to go forward.
And the bottom line is you would have liked to have been part of that discussion with him before you made that decision.
That's what I thought we were going down there for. At least let us talk to him. Let us talk to him. It would have made all the difference in the world if they would have just let us talk to him. If he was going to do this, what difference does it make who's listening? But he has our love. He has our unconditional love. I will never abandon my son. He did a horrible, horrible, if that comes to pass that he did this, then I still love him. He's my son. and I will always love him. And a lot of people don't understand that, and I don't understand that, why they don't.
Well, could you talk a little bit about some things we talked about yesterday? You said, I think your exact words were, he's not the psychopath next door.
He isn't. He's not the sociopath next door. He's not the psychopath. He didn't kill little small animals. He didn't do any of these things. He was a good child. I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything that was abnormal about him, except he was socially awkward. He had trouble socializing, but so did I when I was younger. I think you learn that as you grow, and I think he felt a little bit more comfortable in his skin, and he just, I don't think he just had the right person at his side. I don't. That relationship was toxic from the very beginning.
What would you say to Shanann's family if you could talk to them?
God, I'm so sorry this happened. For both our families, because we both lost everything. They lost a daughter, we lost our son. We lost our grandchildren. We all lost. Everybody did. And you'll never get it back. And they were precious. They were so, so precious.
Investigators say Chris Watts carried out one of the most shocking family murders in modern memory. His own mother says none of it makes sense. She insists her son showed no warning signs, no aggression, no rebellion, nothing but the makings of a normal life. He's not a psychopath, Cindy Watts told reporters. But if she is right, then what explains what happened inside the Colorado home in August 2018? To the world, he is known as a killer, a murderer, a monster. But not everyone sees him that way, and one person never has, his mother, Cindy. So we begin where her certainty starts, at home, when he was little, in the years that, to her, wrote a simple story. She remembers a boy who was calm, soft-spoken, the kind of kid who eased through classrooms and hallways without trouble. When asked if there were warning signs, fights, outbursts, anything that would hint at harm, she answers quickly, nothing, not in a million years would she have imagined this for her son. In her voice, that's not a defense strategy, it's a memory she keeps repeating because it's the foundation of everything else she believes. She sketches him through everyday snapshots, a child who said, yes, ma'am, who got along with people, who didn't start things, who avoided conflict instead of feeding it. She stresses how ordinary became its own kind of proof, no calls from the school, no bruised knuckles, no apologies to make on his behalf. When pressed about fights, she doubles down, no fighting, quiet, polite, agreeable. A mother can romanticize, she knows people think that. But this is the hill she stands on, and the details roll off her tongue the same way every time, as if the repetition might steady the ground under her. Cindy leans on sports to flesh out the picture, structure, teams, adults watching, rules posted on the wall. She says he started at 5 and kept going until 17, basketball in winter, baseball in spring, football when the air got crisp, year after year. The rhythm mattered to her, practices after school, game days that taught patience, coaches who expected him to show up on time and put others first. She mentions 2 best friends from those years, boys who are still in his orbit, a thread she holds up as proof that he belonged, that he wasn't isolated or strange. If someone tries to match that with the man the public knows now, Cindy counters with the scoreboard from back then, teams, schedules, friendships, routines, a good kid, she says, and you can hear how that phrase has become a prayer. And then comes the line she knows will be replayed and ridiculed, but she says it anyway because it's the truest sentence she has, he was the perfect teenager. He did not even rebel. She says it with the matter-of-fact tone of a mom who expected a slammed door at 16 and never got one, who waited for the backtalk, the broken curfew, and watched it pass them by. To her, this is not a marketing line. It's the thing that makes the later headlines feel like a mistake in the math, the kind you want to erase and work again. Even the so-called blemishes don't stick in her telling. She mentions a minor ticket once, almost as an afterthought, and moves on because it doesn't fit the boy she remembers. In Cindy's story, perfect doesn't mean saint, it means steady, respectful, inside the lines when most kids test the edges and push back. As high school ended, his plans looked practical and grounded, and that, to her, mattered. He wanted a hands-on career, not a dream that floated. He wanted the NASCAR Technical Institute in Mooresville, North Carolina, and his parents helped make it happen. She lights up when she talks about that choice, the hours in a shop, the patience of careful work, the satisfaction of tightening a bolt to spec and knowing it would hold. Later, she tells the reporter he landed at a dealership service bay and loved it, that he bought a big toolbox and lined up his tools with care, a small habit that, again, in her mind, pushes against the image of chaos people now attached to his name. Even here, she is building a ledger, showing the choices of a young man who valued order, routine, and earning a living by fixing what's broken. And as you listen, you can feel the question forming at the edge of her words, the one she refuses to answer yet: if this was the blueprint, what changed Chris Watts? For a mother who prides herself that her son took pride in doing a job the right way, Cindy starts this part of her defense with the story of Chris at Ford leadership. After graduating from technical training, he found steady work as a service technician at the Ford dealership in Mooresville. This wasn't just a paycheck to him. He bought his own large toolbox, carefully organizing every wrench, socket, and gauge so that nothing was out of place. Cindy tells how he loved to line up the tools in perfect order, checking them twice before starting on a customer's car. In her mind, this detail mattered because it revealed a man who found comfort in structure, who believed that how you work says everything about who you are. It is one of the examples she clings to when the world labels him something she cannot accept. She stresses that he was never the kind of person to cut corners. Every vehicle that rolled into the bay got his full attention, whether it was a simple oil change or a complex repair. For Cindy, this speaks louder than anything that has been said in court or splashed across the news. The discipline of a man who keeps his workspace clean, who respects the details of his craft, is, to her, incompatible with the accusations that followed him years later. She repeats that he carried himself with quiet focus, never looking for praise, just satisfied when a job was done correctly. It is this version of Chris that she believes still defines him, not the version that the public has come to know. So when reporters and commentators call him a monster, Cindy refuses to let those words stand unchallenged. In a Denver 7 interview she said firmly, "He's not a psychopath. He's not a sociopath." She insists that her son never displayed the classic warning signs that criminologists or psychologists point to. No cruelty to animals, no violent outbursts in school, no secret streak of destruction hiding beneath the surface. She tells anyone who asks that at most, Chris was socially awkward, sometimes too quiet, but never cruel. That distinction is vital to her because it means the story people repeat about him ignores the decades of ordinary, measured life that came before the tragedy. But Cindy has more to say. She says it didn't start with fireworks, and that matters to her because first impressions set the tone you carry into a family. In Cindy's words, this wasn't love at first sight, it was polite, careful, and then, almost immediately, uneasy. She remembers how small remarks made the air feel tight, the kind of comments that leave a parent staring at their hands instead of joining the conversation. She has said plainly that she got a bad feeling early on, the kind a mother trusts even when everyone else shrugs it off. In that beginning, she believed the match felt off balance long before it ever felt like home. What she holds on to are the exact words she says she heard, because the words explain the feeling. Cindy recalls Shanann judging Chris in front of her, saying he wasn't the kind of person she would date, that he didn't know how to do this or that, and even mocking his look with a throwaway line about him looking like a skater boy, and how much product he used in his hair. To Cindy, those weren't jokes, they were warnings about respect and how quickly it can be chipped away. She says it went on, enough that she stopped trying to laugh it off and started taking notes in her head. That is the seed she points to when people ask where her doubts began. Cindy frames those early exchanges as the first turn in a story that would later be told by strangers, and she refuses to give that first chapter to anyone else. She repeats that there was no sweep you off your feet romance, no lights out story you brag about to relatives. There was an early mismatch she could feel in the room. Each time a new comment landed, she says she watched her son go smaller, the way a person does when they don't want to make a scene. She believes those moments mattered more than people admit, because the beginning of a marriage is the place where tone becomes rule. In her account, the tone was set by critique, not care. Then comes the decision she still knows people will judge her for, the wedding in 2012. Cindy and Ronnie did not attend, and she has been direct about why. They couldn't get along with Shanann, and she would not pretend otherwise on a day that was supposed to mean unity. For Cindy, staying home was not a stunt. It was a line she drew so everyone would know where she stood about how her son was treated. The choice branded her from that day forward, but she says honesty beats a smile that isn't true. That act, absent seats where parents should be, became the family's first public fracture. Reporters later asked whether she worried that decision would haunt her, and Cindy's answer never changes. The rift was already there, the wedding only exposed it. She points back to those early criticisms to explain why she could not clap and toast as if nothing had been said. In her telling, respect had been traded for little put-downs, and you can't build a marriage on that without paying for it later. She says she knew how it looked, but a parent who has concerns does not fix them by smiling for photos. That is how she wants this chapter remembered, not as a snub, but as proof that the mismatch started long before anyone saw a ring.
And I'm going to have you folks introduce yourself for the record.
I'm Cindy Watts.
Ron Watts.
Thank you. And I have authorized you to make a statement to the court as paternal grandparents of the children. And if you choose not to make a statement, but your designee, Ms. Powers, chooses to, she can do so as well. How would you like to proceed today?
Can I read that? Yeah, do you want me to start? I want you to start, but I would like to read
Who's
that.
going to be speaking today?
Your Honor, initially, they've asked me, and they're hoping that they have the strength to speak, but if they do not, they've written out their statements and asked me to finish for them. So,
That would be fine. Who would like to go first?
if I could start, Your Honor. On behalf of the Watts, Your Honor, and to the community, we thank you for the opportunity and the recognition under the Victim Bill of Rights. We come today as the grandparents and the parent of the daughter and children whose life was taken in this case. We are not here to ask for leniency. We are not in any way condoning or tolerating the crime that has occurred and the pain that has been caused. We join in our daughter-in-law and grandchildren's family in saying this should never have happened. This is not condonable. This is something that we will never get over. We appreciate the consideration that everyone has paid, most especially the families that have lost everyone. We appreciate that they begged for Christopher's life. We agree and echo what they have said, that it is not his place to take anyone's life, nor would it be our place as a community to take his life. So we thank you for the opportunity and for every consideration and effort that's been put out. The prosecution in this case has in fact respected the Victim Bill of Rights. They took the time to explain that the information that my clients had at the time that they were interviewed was not correct. They were misinformed. They were searching for answers. They were not intending to cause any pain to anyone, and they appreciate that the prosecution answered their questions and gave them the time and the respect and the consideration so that they could tell this court and everyone in this community that the interview content was not their message, that they accept that their son has done this, that they accept that he chose to plead guilty, that he sought and requested their consent and agreement for a life sentence. They appreciate that he is given the opportunity to serve that life sentence. It is his responsibility. It is his sentence. and it is not enough to make up for what has done. We understand and we join the family in that we have questions. We don't know how such a thing could possibly happen, or that a man that was responsible for raising his children and protecting his wife would take the steps that he did, and that he would disregard their bodies and the love that he had for them and they had for him and everyone else, and take the gestures and put this community through the investigation and the discovery and the responsibility of bringing justice. We do not understand that. We do not think it was appropriate. We cannot begin to think that an explanation will ever justify it. My clients indicate that they understand that a full opportunity for a confession with all of the responsibility and accountability has not occurred. And they support the family in the request that that happen, if not today, at an appropriate time, in an appropriate manner, so that everyone can have peace, to understand to the best of their ability the details that they need and to have their questions answered. And by giving this opportunity of a life sentence, we hope that he embraces that moment. That had the death penalty been pursued, there would not have been an opportunity to be accountable and to give a full confession. And had the death penalty been sought, counsel would have fought for his life, the prosecutors would have been engaged in a multiple-year battle, the families would have been torn apart, this community would have had to subsidize it and endure it, and we have so much respect and gratefulness that that did not happen. We would strongly encourage Christopher Watts to give that full confession in the tone and in the timing that he thinks is appropriate with the guidance of his counsel. We feel that it would be appropriate and helpful to ease the pain and the suffering. But we also say we don't think that there's anything that he can say that will ever account for his behavior. There's nothing that can be done to cure the harm he has caused.
Then she stepped even closer and said the part that brought a hush to the benches, "We love you, and we forgive you, son." With that, she placed her family's name beside a word that would carry weight in every headline that followed, not to clear him but to tell him there would be no door closed to him as their child. She said they would remain faithful as his family, drawing on the kind of faith that tells her love does not disappear in a courtroom, and that it can hold steady even when it hurts to speak. She told him he had been a good friend, brother, father, and son, and that this truth about his place in their family would not be erased by a case file. If people could not accept how she could say it, she understood, but she was going to say it anyway. In her calculus, that is the only way a mother can stand up straight in a room like that. What Cindy offered that morning was not a theory about August, and not a request to the court, it was a promise to her son and a record for the public of what she believes love looks like when it has nowhere else to go. She accepted that others would see it as wrong, and she did not ask them to clap, she asked them to witness a mother's choice and leave it at that. She understood that this choice would follow her, that people would attach motive to it, and she spoke anyway because silence would feel like abandoning him. She closed by telling him again that they loved him, and that they would not walk away, even as the judge prepared to lock in life without parole. That is where Cindy wanted her chapter to end, in the open, with nothing left unsaid about the only thing she still controls. And as the prosecutor rose and the bailiffs shifted, another family waited to speak, ready to lay their grief and their own kind of love on the record. Before we continue, we want to thank you for supporting us and helping keep these stories alive. This channel grows because of you. By becoming a YouTube member, you'll get exclusive perks, access to special content, and directly support the work behind every story we share. Your support allows us to keep telling the truth. We'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. It's amazing to see our community connected worldwide. Sandra and Frank Razusek stepped to the microphone in Greeley on November 19, 2018, not as pundits but as the family that lived the loss, and their words cut through every excuse that room had heard. Sandra and Frank Razusek speak of love first, how Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and the baby they were going to name Nico were cherished, and then they turn to the man who took them. "We loved you like a son," Sandra says, "we trusted you," and she makes it clear that trust is the very thing he broke beyond repair. She reminds him that the children adored him, that the home he helped build was supposed to be safe, and that nothing he says will ever explain what happened. It is grief on the record, unadorned and steady, set down for the judge and for anyone who ever wondered what this crime did to a family that had welcomed him in. And it is the first time in this film that Cindy's story meets a wall that will not move. Frank speaks like a father who has spent too many nights replaying the last ordinary moments he had with his daughter, and he does not try to soften what he feels. He calls out the way Shanann, Bella, and Celeste were treated after death, how they were carried away and disposed of, and says plainly that the man he once trusted showed a level of disregard he cannot comprehend. He tells the court that what was taken from his family cannot be weighed, and that his grandson never got to draw a breath because of a choice made in their house. He looks at the bench and asks for a sentence that recognizes the scale of that choice, not with anger alone but with the clarity of a father who knows there is no fixing what is gone. Then he adds the line that will follow this case forever: prison is too good for you. Sandra keeps her message anchored to the people she loved rather than the man she is addressing, and that makes the contrast even sharper. She talks about a daughter who was resolute and giving, and about little girls who gave out hugs like candy, then tells him she cannot square those images with what the investigators described. She reminds him that Bella once sang for Father's Day, "Daddy, you're my hero," and says aloud that she does not know who gave him the right to take those lives. It is not a legal argument, it is a mother deciding that the one thing she can do in a courtroom is speak truth with their names attached. When she finishes, there is no applause, only the weight of what it means to say those words in front of the person who made them necessary. Frankie Rzussek's statement carries the voice of a brother who once thought of Chris as a protector and now cannot say his name without feeling the break in his family. He talks about the nights of hearing his parents cry, the uncle he never got to be, and the way trust turns to ash when the person you welcomed into your circle becomes the reason you have to stand in court at all. He says there will never be a day when the memory of the girls feels anything less than immediate, and he wants the man at the defense table to remember that he sold his place in their lives for nothing. The tone is not theatrical, it's the steady cadence of someone marking down losses one by one so they can never be rewritten. When he steps away, you understand why the Rzusseks asked the district attorney to take death off the table even as they condemned what was done, because they were choosing not to be the kind of family that adds another ending to the list they already carry. And when, a week earlier, Cindy and Ronnie sat for a TV interview to defend their son, the Rzusseks answered from the same place they spoke in court. They released a statement calling the parents' claims vicious, grotesque and utterly false, not because debate moves them, but because they will guard Shanann's name until the last headline fades. To them, that interview crossed a line. To Cindy, it was the only way she knew to stand with a child she still loves. Those two realities now run side by side, a mother's defense and a family's refusal to let their daughter be recast by anyone, for any reason. And as we leave the Rzusseks' words where they put them, on paper, on camera, in a courtroom, you're left with a question this film cannot dodge. When the countervoice is this strong, can Cindy's story about a perfect teenager still hold its shape in the light of what they said next? Still, there's something we need to consider. Why would a woman, a mother, keep defending her son when the evidence is stacked, the case is closed, and the world has already passed judgment? For Cindy, the answer lies in a mixture of mistrust, memory, and the unshakable conviction that the boy she raised could not be the man the headlines describe. She has said repeatedly that she was cut off from meaningful conversations with her son while the plea was being arranged, left feeling that the system moved too fast and too quietly. To her, justice cannot be sealed in paperwork if it never allowed space for a mother to look her child in the eye and hear his full account. That lack of access has grown into a constant doubt, an open wound she refuses to let close because she believes truth and strategy are not the same thing. Her doubt is also built on emotional logic that doesn't fade with time. She asks, again and again, how can a perfectly normal young man do this? It is not just a rhetorical question, it is the center of her struggle. She remembers the quiet child, the polite teenager who never rebelled, the young man who spent his days working with tools and showing pride in orderly work. When she places those memories beside the crime scene reports, the pieces will not fit, and her mind refuses to accept that transformation as natural. For Cindy, the very impossibility of it is evidence in itself, a constant reminder that something remains untold. And then there is the part of her that will always hold out for another conversation, one that hasn't happened yet. At sentencing, Ronnie Watts told his son, "We still don't have all the answers, and I hope one day you can help us," and Cindy echoes that same need. She has said openly that she wants the truth, that she believes with time he will share what really happened, and that she will wait as long as it takes. That hope may sound naive to some, but for her it is a way to keep living with the contradiction, to believe that the son she loved is still capable of giving her clarity. In her heart, the legal clock stopped in November 2018, but a mother's clock keeps ticking, waiting for a version only he can give. So the question lingers. Not in the courtroom, not in the headlines, but in the private space where a parent cannot let go. Why would a mother keep defending her son? Cindy's answer is layered, because the process felt like a lockout, because her memories refused to match the verdict, and because she believes the last word has not yet been spoken. That conviction keeps her in the uncomfortable space between public certainty and personal doubt. And as the years pass, she carries both fear and hope, fear of what it would mean if the official story is the only story, and hope that one day the son she raised will finally fill in the silence she has been living with since August 2018. But beyond his mom's defense and his wife's family's condemnation, the question that lingers is this: what does Chris Watts think of himself? In his own words from prison, he doesn't describe himself as the monster the headlines branded him, but he also doesn't excuse what he did. In the February 2019 Wisconsin interview, he told investigators that he talks to Shanann and the girls every morning and every night, almost as if he's trying to keep himself tethered to the family he destroyed. He said he keeps their photos pinned to the walls of his cell and still reads Cecil's bedtime book followed by passages of scripture, describing this ritual as his way of holding on and seeking forgiveness. He has told those who visit him that he has found God, and in letters to pen pals he has gone as far as to say that God has forgiven him, though he struggles with whether he can forgive himself. He has also spoken about Nico, the unborn son who never drew a breath, saying that Shanann had chosen the name and that he once suggested spelling it differently. Those details, so ordinary, become the way he tries to humanize himself in the middle of an unthinkable act, like naming the baby is proof he still sees himself as a father even behind bars. When he talks about the affair, he admits it was part of what contributed, though he emphasizes that the woman involved never asked him to harm his family. He frames it instead as his own weakness, saying that when he was with her he felt like he wasn't thinking at all, as if something inside him switched off. These words are not a denial, but they show the way he describes himself, as a man who made choices he calls stupid and selfish, not a man he calls evil. Letters from strangers complicate the mirror he looks into. Reports show that women still write to him, some sending scripture, some offering sympathy, and others professing affection. He responds to many of them, sometimes sharing Bible verses, sometimes recounting details of his daily life in prison, painting himself as a man who prays, reflects, and studies scripture rather than the man whose case shocked the world. These exchanges feed into the version of himself he seems to prefer. Not the killer in the headlines, but the repentant believer in a cell, redeemed in the eyes of those who choose to write back. Whether that picture is honest or a performance, it's the identity he's building for himself on the page. So beyond his mother's certainty that he was the perfect teenager and his wife's family's insistence that prison is too good for him, Chris Watts presents himself as something more complicated. He is not calling himself innocent, but he is refusing to accept the label of a monster. He sees himself as a man who made catastrophic choices, who now seeks to explain them through faith and through nightly rituals that keep him close to the family he lost. He clings to the idea that God's forgiveness means there is still some version of him worth seeing, even if the world never accepts it. And as his letters continue to leave that Wisconsin prison, one question remains unanswered: does Chris truly believe this softer image he writes about, or is it the only mask he has left to wear when the lights go out and the photographs of Shanann, Bella, Cece, and Nico stare back at him?
Your love and support is all I need.
Honey, you've got that. You've got that. If this conversation is in any way indicative of Chris's upbringing, it's easy to understand why he showed signs of deceptive behavior early on, which he euphemizes as having a crazy imagination.
I mean, I've always had a really crazy imagination. So like when I was a kid, like I even convinced my teacher I went to Japan over the summer or to China or something.
Why did you convince your teacher you had gone to another country?
It was just like what you did over the summer. And I was like, oh, well, it's China. You're still right. She actually believed it. I was really convincing.
So you're a smart dude. Yeah.
It was amazing. Parent-teacher conference. I said, so how's China? What? Nope.
Deceptive behavior in small things can lead to deceptive behavior in large things, and it takes a lot of self-deception, not to mention pride, for a person to think they can get away with a heinous crime like this, especially when they don't know how to express emotions, let alone appropriate emotions.
Like when I got home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like she wasn't here, kids weren't here. I have no idea like where they went. And it's just earth-shattering. I don't feel like this is even real right now. It's like a nightmare that I just can't wake up from. If she's vanished, like I want her back so bad. I want those kids back so bad.
Where'd you get that shirt?
Oh, this is I think she got it off Amazon, but this is my favorite college sports team. I like these shirts a lot.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of good letters from people, just like people of support. So.
Oh, honey, you don't know how much support you had out here. So many people supported you. So many still support you, and.
Support him in what exactly? He's the one who's decided to plead guilty. Chris mentions the things that portray him in a positive light and leaves out the rest, most likely knowing that his mother will echo his claims.
But this is what you want?
Yeah, this is my decision. This is what I'm gonna do. Now this nightmare has to be over for everybody.
No. You have to remember we're strong.
I know. This is my decision, though.
But don't ever confess to something you didn't do.
I know, but this is my decision, though. This is all me, okay? I was not pressured into anything. This is my decision.
Okay.
Cindy doesn't consider her son's guilt for one moment, even though no innocent person would ever plead guilty to a crime like this.
But this is what you want? But don't ever confess to something you didn't do.
And the statement,
you have to remember we're strong,
speaks to Cindy's image of her family, an image which isn't necessarily true. Chris is obviously careful with not saying too much. Instead of saying he's guilty, he makes his decision sound like an act of charity.
Now this nightmare has to be over for everybody.
They keep talking as if nothing's happened.
I've been the service on Sunday. Oh my gosh, it was so pretty. Everything was decorated so nicely for Halloween, and we had crosses made for each of them. And I had bought a CD player at Walmart, and and they put the CD in, and it kept skipping, and it kept skipping, and it kept skipping. And so they sang the song without the CD. And then the second CD they put in, it was skipping and skipping and skipping. And Monica said, okay, that's little Cece. She is over there messing with that CD right this minute. And then an eagle flew over the gravesite. And,
really?
Yeah, and it was, and the pictures that we took, they were, they had a ray of sunshine in each picture of all of them, and it was a nice service. Everyone attended.
This excerpt shows the illusion of fairy tale that Cindy consistently prefers over reality. CDs often skip for no reason, birds fly over gravesites, and if it's a sunny day, there'll be a ray of sunshine in each picture. To say that these events are in any way proof of the presence of her granddaughters is the same kind of wishful thinking as when she goes on to say that Chris is the kindest person there ever was. One question to debunk this common illusion: what about all the other times, all the other services, for example, when there aren't any so-called signs, when there's no meaning? Chris laughs as the reminiscing father, as if he didn't take the lives of the girls Cindy's referring to, as if he's not the reason why Cindy has to make up signs that fit her fairy tale, as opposed to realizing the ugly truth about Chris's nature. And the illusion continues, with Cindy desperately trying to find meaning in the meaningless.
Your story's not over. It's just another beginning of something else, Chris. But your story does not end here. It doesn't end here. You are made for something else then. I don't know what it is yet, but you are someone that I always felt that you had a pure heart, a good soul. No one could ever say anything bad about you. You were the kindest person there ever was.
Cindy is trapped between reality and her fairy tale. To her, Chris's story can't be over, because that would mean there isn't any meaning to her pure-hearted son's circumstances. Chris's story is indeed over, but Cindy needs it to go on. In relation to this, her many repetitions are worth noting, reinforcing what she says.
That does not end here. It doesn't end here. You had a pure heart. A pure heart. No one, kindest.
These repetitions are like mantras, indicative of people who are trying to convince themselves of something, as opposed to actually being convinced.
You are made for something else then. I don't know what it is yet, but...
She doesn't know what it is yet, but she knows he was made for something else. This speaks to the illusion of fairy tale. She needs a meaning, even if she has to make it up. Same as with the skipping CD and the eagle. When the truth is, no one with a pure heart and a good soul, as if that's even possible to have, would do what Chris has done and then lie and look happy about it.
I want her back so bad. I want those kids back so bad.